Wow, wow, wow. Hello, everybody. Dr. Rick Wallace here, dropping in on you this morning. I am going to do the best I can to be brief. Good morning, Marley. I'm going to do the best I can to be brief. I have what 3 sessions before noon, and then a couple of booked afterwards. So I got a very busy day ahead of me. I'm very excited about what we're doing with the Rapid Change Breakthrough Session, which is an opportunity to have a free 30-minute session, a breakthrough session with me, so that we can at least identify one of the primary elements that are inhibiting you from doing what you exactly want to do with your life. I am a firm believer that if you have something you want to do with your life, it's within your reach, but you have to deal with a lot of the things that are culturally influencing the negative side of the equation, experientially contributing to the negative side of the situation, and so many other things. So I decided to open up access to the Visionetics Institute and what we offer to people who would normally probably not approach the idea out of concern of what it may cost or whatever. Now that hopefully the ideal situation is to work with someone on an ongoing basis to really hammer out and achieve the most. But if you can just get a breakthrough idea of what's possible and what's holding you back and get you your focus and your center, it's amazing what you're able to do. So while everybody won't stick around and work the entire program, that one breakthrough session may be just what you need. That's up to you. There are no obligations. Just want you to get an idea of what's possible. So the questionnaires in the box, in the comment, in the post box or the description box, depending on where you're watching it at, and fill out that questionnaire, send it to the email address, set up your 30-minute breakthrough session, invest that 30 minutes in getting a fresh look at where you're at and where you're going, and look at just how much is possible. I want to talk to you real briefly today about the power of the mind. You've heard me speak on it in multitudinous ways over all different types of realities and possibilities and what happens. And that at the end of the day, the most simplified expression of truth is, I think James Allen said it, I think that Solomon said it, and it's been said many times before: as a man thinks, so is he. I posted earlier today something that is extremely true, and it was something that Dr. Wayne Dyer wrote, the late Dr. Wayne Dyer. He wrote that there's something that you should remember, and that is that you get what you think about, whether you want it or not. And what you think about consistently is the seeds of your future. It's the seeds of your destiny. I wrote a book and published a book last year called "Your Mind is the Genesis of Your Destiny," and it talks about in depth how our thoughts create our realities, how everything goes from an idea or a thought to a belief to a habit form, from a ritual to a habit form, from a habit form to a consistent behavior, from a consistent behavior to results produced by those behaviors. And it all starts with this one thought. Now, the thing is, not only are your thoughts impacting how you behave, but your thoughts also have the capacity for generating energy. You generate energy on different frequencies, and different frequencies have different levels of vibration. The lower the vibration, the more negativity exists. And what we do know consistently through experiential observation, through scientific study, is that energy attracts like energy. And if you're operating on a low frequency, if you're operating on a low vibration, you will attract to you those things that function and flow on that. The way that you extract yourself from a lot of negative activity is to raise your vibration, because when you raise your vibration, you raise your plane of function, how you're operating, what can touch you, what can get at you. Remember, you can only attract like energy. So when you raise your frequency, when you raise your thinking, your thoughts, how you deal with things, what you actually end up doing is extracting yourself and isolating yourself and insulating yourself from the negative activity. It doesn't mean that you won't encounter things, but even when you encounter something that you don't like, you will find a way to turn that, what most people would assume to be a negative, into a positive, simply in the way that you're thinking. Your thinking will shape your perception, and your perception will shape how you interpret any situation. Have you ever noticed that there are people out there that no matter what you do, hey, hey, Regina, one of my family members on here, man, we go way back. My father and her mom are siblings, but hey, how you doing, sweetie? But what you have to understand is that you are setting the tone of what you can expect by your thoughts. Your thoughts not only influence your beliefs, your thoughts emit energy. The energy that is emitted is communicating on a level and a plane with others, as well as the universe. The universe is this big, huge space of consciousness that is nothing but energy, and energy formulated and formalized into different things. At its very core, everything in the universe, no matter what it is, from a tree to a desk to a person to water and everything else, is a form of subatomic matter. Everything is formed from atoms, but atoms can be broken down into subatomic matter and studied at greater depths. And we find that it's energy. It's all energy. And then this energy is designed to attract itself to like energy. But at a deeper level, we now know that this energy, this subatomic energy, not only is energy, but has consciousness. It knows. And this has actually been proven. I won't get into all the tests and stuff like that to tell you, but the consciousness of the mind, what a lot of scientists now are calling the mind of God, literally meaning that the universe, every particle in the universe has the mind of God in it, has the consciousness of God in it, and it responds to what most people might call faith. When you believe something strong enough, it creates an energy that impresses itself upon the particles in the universe, and you formulate things, you create things, you bring things to you. So when you create a reality, the reality doesn't start in what ends up in front of you as a situation or a circumstance. Reality starts as a thought. If I'm thinking something, I emit an energy. That energy begins to move. That's why I tell people all the time, life will only meet you at the level of your expectations. God will only meet you at the level of your expectations. Your expectations are what you are expecting and anticipating from what's out there. And that's exactly what you're going to get, because you're emitting the energy that creates that reality. Now, it doesn't start in front of you. It starts as a thought, but that thought enters into what I call the fifth dimension. The fifth dimension is totally spiritual. It's where your thoughts impress themselves upon the universe, and it also interacts with other energy created by other people. Then you have the fourth dimension, where you start to refine the thought through consistency. In other words, it wasn't a one-time thought, it's a consistent thought. And so it starts to formulate and it becomes more real. And then it enters into the third dimensional realm. That's where you can feel it, touch it, see it. It becomes what we call real, but it was real the moment you thought it. There's a study that became huge and totally shifted the world of psychology back in the late 50s, early 60s. Called cognitive therapy, and cognitive therapy was primarily championed by a guy by the name of Dr. Aaron T. Beck. He's known as the father of cognitive therapy. And what we found is that a lot of the behaviors that were initially weren't able to be understood by clinical psychologists and psychiatrists who were treating people is like, how do they go from 0 to 100? What happened? Well, you're sitting on the couch, I'm talking to you, and all of a sudden you're cussing me out. What happened? And what we found is there are these cognitions, these subconscious thoughts that are taking place consistently in the minds of people that are creating behaviors that their conscious mind is not even aware of. And they're responding to these things. And so what we now know is that the non-conscious brain and the subconscious mind control about 85% of human behavior. You are not being controlled by your conscious thoughts. Your conscious thoughts are setting the diameter and the parameters of what you believe is to be or what you expect. And so when you tell yourself consciously that I can't, your subconscious mind hears it. That's why I tell people all the time, guard your self-talk. I can't remember the book, but there's a book that actually talks about how Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile. And in talking about it, it says that you have to guard your self-talk because your mind is always eavesdropping on your self-talk. I read somewhere else where it says that the brain is like the world's most powerful supercomputer, and your self-talk is the program that you will run on it. And so your brain, no matter how powerful it is, will only function by the software that you provided. What are you feeding your mind? What are you thinking about? In the process of preparing myself to deal with my clients and to grow my business and to become the best that I can, I consistently seek growth and understanding in a field that most people will consider I've mastered. But I know it's so much more to know. So I'm always reading, and I'm always finding these unbelievable facts that give me a greater insight into what's really happening. Good morning, Ursula. Good morning, little sis. And now I got little sis on. I got my cousin, my sister. Oh man, you know, it's good to have family that supports and backs you. And that's one thing I say about my sisters is that they are always there. I look up, I'm at a speaking engagement, I look up and here they come rolling in. And it's like, man, I remember when they were in high school. Excuse me for the digression, but you know, you have to be thankful for things. Gratitude is so important to altitude. And I remember, you know, I had just came out of high school, and I remember they would fight over who's going to wear my Letterman jacket and stuff like that. They were twins. These are the younger sisters. They were twins. And they would fight over who's going to wear the Letterman jacket. And it was all these things like this. And that's still that same big brother love that I get from them is, you know, I can't express it. And they are accomplished in their own right. Both are authors. Both have careers. It's amazing, you know. But it's good to see Monica. I'm glad to see you're doing well too, little sis. Anyway, the thing is, one thing I was reading in the attempt to gain a greater understanding of how we think and what we operate is, that was a study, and the study said if you take 100 men who start equally, so we're not even talking about the people who start with disparities like poverty and broken households or anything. We're talking about 100 men in the world's richest country, the richest nation, and the greatest opportunity, with the greatest opportunities in history, in America. If you take 100 men and you start them out at the same time in age, 25, meaning that they've had a chance to educate themselves, they've had a chance to prepare for their careers, they had a chance to determine what their goals in their lives are, and you ask them all, do you want to be successful? Every last one of them would say yes. And they would have an idea of what success meant to them. That idea may be different than everyone else's, but they would have some sense of understanding. And a part of that success would be financial security and not having to be stressed out. And the study showed that over the next, 40 years, by the time they reach 65, that only 1 out of the 100 would be rich or exceptionally wealthy. 5, or is it 4? What is it? I don't know if I wrote it down or whatever, but 5 would be independently. No, 4 would be independently, financially independent, meaning they weren't necessarily super wealthy, but they could sustain their own life without working. Okay, and then there would be 5 more that would still be working at 65, and then 54 out of the 100 would be broke. Then we look and say there are over 20-something million seniors that are over the age of 65 right now, and the vast majority of them are broke. So then you ask yourself, in a country in which opportunity is unbelievable, why is it that people who start at the same place, we're not talking about all of the disparities that probably most of us have experienced in some way, at some level. We're talking about the same background, starting with the same knowledge, starting pretty much on the same way with the same opportunity. Why are so many not achieving success? And then we go and we look, and you have a situation of how they cultivate their thinking processes. So you're going to be inundated your entire life with suggestions, and you have a responsibility to monitor your gates. You have primary sensory perceptors. You have your smell, your sight, your hearing, and your touch. While taste is a sense, most of your perceptions of sensory stimuli come through the touching of your skin, your smell, your sight, your hearing. So you have all of this, and it's coming in, and you're trying to interpret it, but you're interpreting it through experiences. And then you're interpreting it through established ideas of what you can expect. And so you've got to be very careful to guard your gates, guard those sensory perceptors. Be very careful of what it is you're dealing with. And then when you detect negative thoughts, you've got to immediately arrest those thoughts, consciously arrest those thoughts, and establish that that thought is not valid. For my Christian believers, it's easy for me to point out something that you are required to do, because in 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 3, it says that the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty in God for the pulling down of strongholds. Then it says, casting down arguments and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God. What does it say? It's saying, here's my belief. In this instance, if you are a Christian, my belief is that in Christianity, whatever your faith system is, whatever you're believing in the sense of a higher power for greater good and for greater capacity, whatever that belief system is, you're saying that, okay, anything that moves against that, exalts itself or makes itself more important or establishes itself to be greater than the knowledge I have about my faith, I must immediately cast it down. I must arrest it. It says, you must bring every thought into captivity. In other words, you have a responsibility of controlling the thoughts that move through your mind. And when you find yourself thinking negatively, you must not give that a pass. What I find is when I'm dealing with people, or people who have low expectations, allow negative thoughts to wander around their minds far too long. And what you don't understand is, while you're thinking consciously, that, like what I posted earlier today, what you think about consistently is what you will get, whether you want it or not. It's not whether I think on the plane of, man, I can't stand this, I hate this. You can say you hate it all day, but you're giving all your thoughts to it. You don't think about it. The way that I teach people that I work with, is start thinking about what you don't want. If what you don't want is that bad, then what you do want is the exact opposite of what you don't want. Focus on what you want, work towards what you want, move towards what you want, and you will automatically begin to distance yourself from the things you don't want. Don't focus on what you don't want. Focus on what you want. Establish exactly what it is you want and go after what you want. You will automatically distance and alienate yourself from situations, from people, from thinking, from all of those things that produce negative ideas, negative realities. You don't focus on what you don't want. You spend way too much time talking about what you don't want, what you don't have, how hard it is, who you can't stand, how much you hate your job. All of those things are not going to produce a new reality. You got a bunch of people who have complained so long that they're now just complaining because that's who they've become. Because complaining has become a part of their identity, because they have never addressed the true nature of what they're dealing with. If you don't like the job, if you're working on a job and that job is not giving you fulfillment, if you're working on a job and it's not serving the genius inside of you and allowing you to make an impact and have a sense of fulfillment in the world, and more importantly, if it's not sustaining you financially, and you're pouring yourself into it, and every day you got to wake yourself up and drag yourself to work, let me tell you something. You are literally committing spiritual suicide. I know I'm being overly dramatic. No, I'm being exactly true. Let me explain something to you. There's this harmony that exists throughout the scope of your human existence, your emotions, your mentality, your physicality. all of your spirituality, all exists in an equilibrium, in a harmony. And when you disrupt that harmony, you disrupt everything. So when you have a situation where you're stressed out mentally, there's a form of science called psychosomatics. It means that the mind is affecting the body. And so when you have stress and worry from a mental perspective, from an emotional perspective, you're completely stressed out because you're getting up and you're going to a job every day. That stress is translated through a physiological representation or a recognition of the stress in the body, in which stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol are released into the body. And this is where you hear about chronic stress syndrome. That's when you're consistently, because of constant mental stress, releasing a stress hormone that was meant for momentary responses into your body on a consistent basis. It's literally breaking down your kidneys, breaking down your heart, your liver, your thyroid. It's literally disrupting your health. A lot of people who have trouble losing weight are losing weight, not because they're not eating right, not because they're not exercising, because they are stressed out. And the stress is at such a high level that it's disrupting the functions of the body, interrupting the metabolic processes that allow them to burn calories for energy. You're sluggish. Stress is a killer. And it starts with your mind. It starts with what you think and what you allow to control your expectations. See, a lot of people have been convinced that they are helpless. A lot of people have been convinced that they don't have a way out. A lot of people are convinced that their suffering is their lot in life. That they've been convinced that they were born poor and they'll die poor. They've been convinced that they don't have control and they need someone else to give them a break. And they look, and I believe it was Norman Vincent Peale that said that the ones who get on in this world are not the ones who wait on opportunity to find me. The ones who get on in this world are the ones who wake up in the morning and they go out and find the circumstance that's right for them. And if one does not exist, they create one. That's what happens. The only difference in those 100 men that started out on the same plane at the same time and ended up in so many different places, and with only one reaching total fulfillment out of 100, is because of the way they think. Now, one thing that I did when I began to study people, to develop an idea of who I would model my life after, I believe and I look, and one thing that I've learned is that everything is built on rhythm and patterns. You think in rhythm, you create rhythm spiritually, you create rhythm, and you move physically. All the elements work together in rhythm, but rhythm acts and forms a flow in a pattern. And depending on the pattern you're operating in, you can determine and predict your results. So what I learned is the people who are successful in life in specific areas have specific patterns that they follow. Now, they may adjust the pattern slightly to fit their specific needs, but the pattern to success, the pattern to financial independence is the pattern. It's the same. Now, you can play along with it, but there's a mindset that goes along with it that creates a pattern of behavior. The pattern of a strong and powerful marriage remains the same. Now, you can work it to fit your personal likes and dislikes, but the pattern of a successful marriage is the same. The pattern of social impact is the same. All of these areas in which you seek to aspire to a higher level of impact and influence have patterns. Find the people who have the patterns and follow it. Model their behavior. Even if you don't know why they're doing it, the answers to the whys will come later. But you look at the behavior and say, I don't understand it. It makes no sense to me because nobody in my family ever did it. And that's what I had to learn. I had to learn there's some things I want to do that nobody in my family has ever done before. That means I'm going to have to find some people who've done it and do some things that nobody in my family's done before. What is that going to lead to? That's going to lead to some ridicule, some negative comments, some people trying to save me from myself because I'm talking crazy. I'm talking, man, that dude, man, I love you, dog, but man, you know I love you, but man, you tripping right now. No, I'm operating on a whole new level. I'm deciding that where I'm at right now is not the end of my life. I'm deciding that what I have on the inside of me is greater. I'm deciding that there are some things I can do in my life that I haven't even touched yet. I'm deciding that I don't have limits, that anything I set my mind on, I can do. I've decided that I'm going to take all the limiting beliefs out of my life. If it comes into my mind and I think I like it and it's something worth committing my life to, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to be successful. I don't care how long it takes me. I'm not going to quit until I get it. I'm going to either get it or I'm going to die trying, and that's the only option I have. I'm not giving myself all of these other options. One thing that my wife asked me before we got married, we were really starting to get to that point where it was obvious that we had something. She asked me something, and it was simple, but it was profound in understanding the two type of people you have. She says, "Hey, you dream a lot. You got all these ideas, and you're always going after them. And I can look back at your track record and see, you handle your business, you eventually get there. But I have a question for you because I need to understand something." And I'm like, what's the question? Come on, shoot it. And she's like, "Do you have a plan B?" And my answer was, "No, I don't have a plan B." And she says, "Why don't you have a plan B?" I said, "Because plan B is a guarantee that plan A won't work." And here's why. We have been conditioned in this culture to take the easiest road possible. We have been conditioned to look for ease, to avoid struggle, to avoid difficulty, to avoid hardships at all costs. The moment, if we have a plan B, if we sit up and say, okay, this is what I really want, but just in case that doesn't happen, this is what I'm going to do. Plan B. As soon as you start to hit difficulty in plan A, and it's going to happen, there's absolutely nothing worth having that comes easy. You're going to hit some difficult moments. You're going to experience delay. You're going to experience people talking behind your back. You're going to experience people purposely shutting doors on you. You're going to experience a bunch of people that don't mean you any good. You're going to go through all of that. And see, if you got a plan B, you're going to back into it. Nobody wants to go through that hardship. Nobody wants to sit up and take on all that. Nobody wants to be the person that nobody likes. And that's something you're going to experience as you become more successful. The people that used to be your boys, your girls, the ones you kicked it with, won't like you. They'll whisper behind your back. They'll hang around you because there's a benefit in being around you, but they won't like it. Why? Because you are a conviction to their mediocrity. You are the very representation of the fact that they are full of bull and they're writing excuses in order not to take on the challenges of life. See, it's a bunch of people who come from the same place you come from that have said, because I never knew my father, I'm stuck in a certain situation. Because my dad was incarcerated most of my life, I'm stuck in a situation. Because I was molested as a child, I can never break free from all this hardship, this hurt, and this suffering. I'm forever broken. I'm never going to really truly aspire to anything. They ruined my life. They're holding on to the hatred and the bitterness of the person who harmed them because that's their excuse for not ever achieving anything. But here you come. You've been abused. You never knew your father. You made poor mistakes. You may have even been incarcerated, but yet you're aspiring and you're striving and you're rising. You just convicted them that all that stuff that they brought up and all the excuses they made were bull. In other words, almost everybody I studied when I was looking for those patterns, those models that I was going to follow, came from nothing. I didn't go for the silver spoon. I went for people who came from nothing, who were probably worse off than I was when they started. And I started to watch them. And the heavy hitters, the big performers, all came from poverty. And all I did is I said, okay, what's the pattern? What's the pattern of thought? See, even your thinking is a habit. Some of you have been trained to find the negative in anything. That's why you got some people, they mad no matter what. You can talk about something and it be some good news and they'll still find a reason to get pissed off about it. You got some people that are negative about everything. I don't care how good it sounds. They're going to point out what a con is. If you're looking for a con in something versus the pro, give it to them. They'll find it. Then there are the people that are going to sit up and they got every reason in the world to be sad. Ain't nothing you can tell them gonna keep them happy. That's because they have decided to be sad. See, nobody controls your happiness but you. Not your wife, not your mother, not your children, not your job, not your career, not your finances. If any of those things control your happiness, you're going to live this capricious life of being up and down all around and never having anything consistent and stable, because life is going to consistently throw curves at you. I don't care how much you love your wife and how awesome she is. I don't care how much you love your husband, how awesome he is. There's going to be some times you're going to look at him and you can't stand him. That's the reality of it, because people are human and people are not going to always do what you want them to do. I don't care how good they are. And like I said, my wife will tell you this about me, and I'll tell you this about my wife. Not everything she does puts me on cloud nine. I didn't marry her because she did everything I wanted her to do. I married her because of her heart, because of her loyalty, because of her commitment, because of her strength, all of those things. And that very thing means sometimes she's going to do something I don't want her to do, because she's herself. She's not my puppet. She's not somebody I manipulate and control. She's a human being who has desires and has her own dream and vision. But so she doesn't hold my happiness. We've had this discussion. She doesn't hold my happiness. I don't hold her happiness. We are happy within ourselves with who we are. And we bring that to the table to strengthen one another. And I try to keep that same mindset when selecting my friends, those in my immediate periphery. I don't want a bunch of people around me that's negative, that's always looking for some reason that the sky is falling every damn day. That's not what I'm looking for. What I'm looking for is the person that's sitting up and says, I refuse to quit. I refuse to give in. Like I told you guys in a video, I want to say last week or week before last, one of my favorite, for people who like to really study the Bible, I'm not talking about from a religious perspective. I'm talking about from gaining power and a sense of connectivity to who you are and your power. One of my favorite, everybody likes to quote Hebrews 11, verse 1, that faith is a substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And then it goes down to verse 6 in the same chapter. It says that for he who does not have faith, no, I take that back. That my soul finds no pleasure in him, but that's in the previous chapter. It says it's impossible to please God, is verse 6. Without faith, it's impossible to please God. But then in the previous chapter, chapter 10, I believe around verse 37, it says that we are not of those who draw back, because his soul finds no pleasure in those who draw back. And it says that we are not of those who draw back, but we continue to the saving of the soul. We never, ever quit. We never, ever give in. We never, ever turn around. That's where I got the mantra that I speak every time I go speak. No surrender, no retreat. No surrender, no retreat. I am not giving up, and I'm not turning around and running. I'm going to face down every challenge. I'm going to go into it. And the one thing that I learned and when I took on that mindset is, if it don't kill me, it makes me strong. If it kills me, it doesn't matter. But the one thing I can say is I sit up, and at the end of my life, the one thing I can say is I never gave up. I never quit. I never cowered. And I believe it was Rollo May, the author, speaker, inspirational. Rollo May said that it is not, when it comes to the opposite of fear in our society, it is the opposite of fear in our society is, I believe how I said it, the opposite of fear in our society is not cowardice. It is conformity, is how he put it. The opposite of fear isn't cowardice, it's conformity. If you, with those same 100 men, if you would catch those 100 men who, with only one becoming rich, only 4 reaching financial independence, 5 still working at 65, and 54 completely broke at 65 years old, if you will take those same 100 men at an earlier stage in their life, and they were getting up and they were going to work every day, and you would ask them, Why are you getting up and going to work every day? I would guarantee you that out of all of them, only 5, the one rich one and the 4 financially independent one, would be able to give you a solid answer of why they're getting up. All of the rest of them would probably say everybody has to go to work. Everybody has to get up and go to work every day. That's conformity. That's doing something because everybody else does it. That's doing something because everyone said that's what you have to do. That's conformity. And that doesn't require creative thinking. That doesn't require critical thought. That doesn't require being able to step outside of the box and become innovative in your thought processes to produce realities and ideas and concepts and things of that nature that don't already exist. You're functioning within a paradigm that limits you based on the environment you're around. So you're getting up every day and you're going to a job you hate because that's what you've been told you do. You don't have a sense of where you're really going. You don't understand what your purpose or your goal is. So you're just waking up every day doing what everybody else is doing with no sense or idea where you're going. Your compass can't be set until you know where you're at and you know where you're going. Just imagine the idea. I love this idea. I actually got it like a long time ago. Listen to LPs from Earl Nightingale. And he used the analogy of a ship. And he says, you take the average ship that leaves port. It's got a full crew on it. It's got a captain and a crew working with this captain that has extensive nautical training of knowing how to get from one place to another. And they will set their compass of where they're leaving to where they're going. And 99.9% of the times, they're going to get to their destination. It may be a little early, it may be a little late, but they're going to get there. On the other hand, you take a ship, same ship, take the crew off, take the captain off, and push it out. It probably won't even make it out of the port before it crashes. Or if it actually lucks up and gets out to sea, you may never find it again. It'll probably end up on a deserted island somewhere or no telling where, crashing into another vessel. It has no destination. It has no crew. The crew are the thoughts, the patterns, the thoughts, the thinking. And the destination is the goals. See, if you don't have any goals set, no idea of where you're going, no destination, then you can't determine the direction you're traveling in. So every time something pops up, you move with it. Every time something happens, move with it. Or you're the one that someone else is already always telling you where to go, what to do, how to do it. Everybody's using you to get what they want in the world, and you're not benefiting from it because you don't know who you are or what you want. And so you are literally allowing someone else to rape your genius. You get up every day, you go, if you are complaining consistently about where you're at, you need to sit back and look at and examine why. Now, some people are just complaining because they're complainers. You have a great job. You actually love your job, but you just complain. You've been a complainer all your life. You need to deal with that. But for most people, when you're complaining because you're in a situation you don't like. And most people are complaining because they're in situations they don't like, because they don't believe they have the power to change it. So you're sitting there and you believe you're stuck. And it's nothing, I'll tell you, there's nothing like believing you're stuck. I don't care what it is. The ability to know that you have the capacity to change your situation is the most powerful force there is, because you are never in something you don't have to be in or you don't want to be in. You're never in something, you're never stuck in something that you don't want to be in or you don't have to be in. You can always make a decision to change it. And that's the difference between those who are successful and those who aren't. Those who are successful look at the situation and determine, this is not where I want to be. And they determine where it is they're going or where they want to be, and they take action. They don't just take action, they take extreme, forceful, massive, committed action. It's not tiptoeing around it and saying, well, I'm gonna see if I can get over here, and if I step over here, will something open up? If it don't, I'm gonna come back over where it's safe. I'm gonna go over here and see. I'm gonna kick on this damn door until it flies open. I'm just going to kick. Either I'm going to break my leg and pass out, or the door is coming down. And that is the only option. Stop giving yourself options of retreat through thinking it probably won't work. You know, I'm looking at something that, like I said, this has been a great month for my family and I, business-wise, our relationships and everything, and you know, and I'm great. And you know, one of the things that has been at the forefront for me is getting back to where I was at one point on the business side, on the finance side, so that my wife can experience what I've already experienced. You know, I've experienced it, and I know the ups and the downs of being there, and I'm not moved by it one way or another. As long as everything is financially set, I'm good. But I want my wife to experience it. So that's one of the things that I've been focused on. And my wife has really worked hard her whole life. And I'm not going to give it all. You can read the book. So nothing I'm sharing with you is anything she has a problem with, because she's very transparent about her journey. And that's what I love about it, her strength. But she's fought on her life, literally overcoming, issues from childhood, and then poor decision making in relationships early on, until she finally worked her way out. But she's basically worked and reared her kids on her own. With no help. And from not just from no help from the fathers, but no help from the family. And so she's just been on this island. So she's extremely cautious about taking any action that may put the kids in jeopardy. It's never about her. It's always about the kids. So first thing I did when I came in, I made it about her. And I explained to her that you can only be as good for them as you are for yourself. So you got to take some time to yourself. And I gave her the latitude to do that. My presence did that. And then the next thing was, okay, we need to start showing you. So we set some goals. And this week we're hitting two major ones. I'll share it when the time is right. I know she shared a little bit of it on her page. But, you know, she's experiencing some things she's never experienced. And it's like coming from a thought. And some of the times I had to tell her, stop saying that. Don't say that. And because it would get ready. It was just natural for her. Well, what if no, they know what if. It will happen. It will happen. That's the only thing you speak, is it will happen. Don't say anything else, but it will happen. And she used to laugh when she would see my vision boards, because she didn't understand the power of imagery. And my vision board, I'm just pulling them down. They coming. I've done it too long. I've watched it work. When you understand the power of imagery, it's so much more you get to understand about how life works. When you can create an image of what it is you expect, and you can look at it and you can see it with clarity, and you know exactly, this is what I'm working with. I got numbers on my vision board and I'm knocking them down. I've got images of the things that I'm going to get that are going to establish a certain level and work as an emblem of the promise to my wife of what I promised her. Knocked two of them down this week, and another one's coming very soon. And the thing is to look at her. When she left today, to look at her jaw and her face, I can't tell you. There's nothing I've acquired in my life that can match what I feel right now in watching my wife experience what she never got to experience. I've done some mad, crazy stuff. And I've enjoyed it all, but to watch her be able to experience for the first time what she got to experience yesterday, and how she's leaving the house with this smile on her face. I watched her walk out the house stressed as hell. But see, my job was to take that away. And I know what's possible. And then my job was to communicate it to her and not try to beat her down or force it on her, but just slowly, systematically bring it into focus for her. And that's what you have to do. You got to change your focus. You got to change how you see things, how you look at life, what you expect out of life. That's where a lot of the problems are coming back. Again, I will say this and I'll come to a close. God, the universe, the Almighty, the Creator, the life, however you want to refer to it, will only meet you at the level of your expectations. You're going to get what you expect, because what you expect is going to create the frequency and the energy you emit, which will only attract like energy. and it's going to also dictate your behavior. Nobody that doesn't believe something is possible is going to commit to massive, passionate, intense energy and effort to make it happen. And we know that how much energy and effort and consistency you put into something is a determinant of how successful you are at it. But if you don't believe it's possible, you might go out and do it because people are watching and you got to say, I tried. But you're not committing massive effort. You're not totally sold out to it. You haven't stepped out there and say, shit, I'm either going out here and do it or I'm going to die. Until you've reached that level of commitment, there's so much you're going to miss, because until you get to the point to say, I'm going the distance, I'm going to either get it or I'm going to die trying, you're going to run into those things that will turn you around. If there's something you sit up and say, man, I'm going to do it, except for, or if this happened, I don't know if I can handle that, or if, whatever it is that will stop you, you're going to meet it. So you'll never get through it. You'll never experience it, because you've already set the thing that's going to stop you. And you're going to meet that thing. That's how life works. But if you sit up and say, I'm going after it, I'm going to die trying. I am going to win or I'm going to die trying. I'm good either way. That's how I approach everything. I don't take on anything that I'm not that passionate about. Why? Because I'll end up wasting my time. Because if I'm not that passionate about it and it starts to get hectic and crazy, I'm going to toss it to the side, because it's not something I'm naturally going to fight for. So I don't commit to things that I can't finish. So if I've committed to something and I haven't finished it, trust me, I'm still working on it. I'm not giving up. I'm not laying down. I'm not turning around. I'm not folding. I'm not falling down, whining and weeping. Shoot, I'm going to either put it on the deck or I'm going to die trying. But it comes from a mindset that facilitates that type of commitment. I don't have options and choices and plan Bs. Go out there and make it happen, period. Go out there and make it happen. There's absolutely nothing in your life that you have your mindset on that you can't have. Stop buying into the negativity. Stop listening to the minimal-minded telling you what you can't do. Stop letting other people define your path. Well, that's it. I thank you guys for stopping by. Wasn't actually planning on going this long. I got about an hour before I start knocking off these sessions. Like I said, if you want to take advantage of the session, fill out the questionnaire, email it, and the support team will get back to you and schedule a time to actually do your session with me. The sessions are being done either by phone or by video conference, whichever you prefer. I'm doing them both ways. Both ways work for me. I get it done either way. But whatever you do, you've got to make a commitment. You've got to make a commitment to being what it is you truly want to be, in accomplishing the things you want to accomplish, and not giving so much weight to your current condition. Your current condition is not the defining factor in what you will become. It's only an event, a circumstance, a situation in time that, if you engage it correctly, will make you better. But if you sit up and you start to identify with a poor condition, that condition will become your reality. And then you will start to live based on the limitations and the fears and the concerns associated with that new reality based on that condition. You're never fixed or locked into anything. If you don't like it, change it. If you don't like it, change it. It's so much within your power. Go after it. With that being said, I'm going to check out of here. It's always awesome to share with you guys. I would love to, sit down and chat it up with you on a one-on-one basis. But that's up to you. But you've got to make a decision to move in your life. You've got to make a decision. And the thing is, I can tell you this with 100% certainty. The only thing that's stopping you are the limitations that you've accepted with your mind. Other than that, there's nothing in front of you to stop you. Now, there are some obstacles, there are some pitfalls, there are some delays, distractions, and disappointments. But at the end of the day, you get up, you dust yourself off, you regain your focus, and you continue to push through. And when you look up, you have accomplished some things that it's so much that I look back and I'm like, damn, I did that. Because sometimes you're so intense and you're so into the fight, and all you know is I'm not quitting. You look up and you go, wow. Critical Mass is going to be my 20th book. I'm gonna share this and I'm done. Critical Mass is going to be my 20th book coming out. Uh, wow, in a week. Um, and and I can remember being told that book number one wasn't going to be published, and that while I was a good writer, my focus topics and my themes were not going to have a large enough audience to justify the marketing to push books. And so I would never get anyone to publish my books. And it was like almost book 10 where I stopped and realized, damn, I just published 10 books. And it was just like maybe 10 years ago, not even that. Maybe 7 years ago, people told me I wasn't going to publish anything. Now I'm at book 20. And it's getting better. I mean, the work I'm doing is getting better. I mean, the reach is getting better. The books are selling better. And the crazy thing is book number one is still selling. Book number 4 is the number one seller still. And that's When Your House Is Not a Home, that deals with marriage. And I'm looking at that, just that one thing. And I've got all these kind of situations all through my life where I looked up and I fought so hard to make something happen, and I just kept fighting that I didn't, until I just stopped for a moment and evaluate, realize how much I had gotten done. That's the awesome power of being committed to something and refusing to quit. You're going to look up one day and you're going to look back and go, wow, I did that. And it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. And see, that's the thing. I didn't do it for anybody else. I did it for me. I did it because that's what I demand of myself. And that's what you got to do. You got to demand something. Raise your standards. When you raise your standards, you lower your tolerance for excuses, and things start to happen. On that note, I'm going to get out of here. Like I always say, I'm going to down E, and I absolutely encourage you and challenge you to do the same thing. I look forward to working with some of you guys. Talk to you soon. I'm out. Peace.